Hello, this is Nathan Morley with another video on the LEGO Salvage truck. Well, hopefully all of you saw the previous video where I take the machine out for a drive. It makes a lot of noise, it clunks through the gears, and then stops suddenly. So this video is mostly on what I think is wrong with this machine, and the list is quite long. So, starting at the front, what I think I'm going to do in future is basically modify the entire drive system on the machine. And by modify, I mean take it apart and rebuild it. So, first of all, starting off at the front, what I'm going to do is take out the governor assembly that exists down in there. It's not really working. Pretty much, it's just allowing the motor to run either full speed ahead or full speed astern, or some sort of intermediate awkward ticking mode. So the governor assembly is going to be gone. This speed control mechanism is also gone, but then the main relay here, the speed control relay, that's also going to be gone. The direction control relay I'm keeping. That is going to tie in with a whole another mechanism that I'm going to get to. So that mechanism gone, the motors will actually move almost all the way to the front. Now I'm going to go back to having 4 of them like I had originally. There's going to be a lot more power. Then behind the motors, actually where the motors are probably right now, will be a clutch. It'll be a proper clutch. One with actually 2 plates that engage and disengage, much like a manual transmission automobile. That will be tied into a whole new transmission controller, which is actually designed to use the clutch during the shifting sequence. So the clutch will go here. The transmission, I've had issues with that from the start. The main problem are those little red transmission components that allow you to select between 2 16-tooth gears. Those aren't really working. The little dog teeth inside the 16-tooth gears keep bending backwards. It's happened several times, and the little teeth on the red pieces snap off quite easily. So that transmission is going to be redone. It's going to actually be gears on shafts that slide around to engage one another. Now, the outrigger mechanism is also going to change. Well, actually, let me get to the drive system. So, one thing that you should have noticed in the video is that when the machine turns, there is a considerable amount of scrubbing on the wheels, meaning that when the machine turns, one axle wants to pull one direction and the other axle wants to pull the opposite direction. That is causing some extreme loading situations on the machine. Basically, it means that I can't take a corner in any gear higher than the 3rd on an 8-speed transmission. So what I'm going to do is actually uncouple the 3rd axle from the power system, so only the 2nd axle will drive. I'm going to probably leave the 2nd axle where it is, move the 3rd axle a little bit farther back, take out this entire section, relocate most of the equipment, and then in between here will actually be a whole additional outrigger assembly. I'm going to take out the rear outrigger assembly and the forward assembly, combine them both into a single middle system, which will go directly between the number 2 and number 3 axle. Now, I'm also going with a Hailfire Droid wheel-based turntable system. I'm still going to keep the little turntable in the middle. It's going to serve as a conduit through which all the cables pass to get to the crane assembly, but the swinging of the whole unit is going to be powered through the Hailfire wheel. Now, I'm going to have 8 pins all around the wheel that a slot in the wheel engages with to locate the wheel. But then it's also going to have 4 little wheels under it, 4 or 8, depending on how many I can get under there. Those wheels are going to transfer the weight of the crane and all the lateral forces that it entails to the machine itself. Now, the 2 side wheels will actually be built into the outrigger assembly, and the outrigger assembly will have a positive locking system in place, so it will be able to transfer loads that are incurred when the crane swings sideways. It'll be able to transfer those loads to the ground very efficiently. See, one of the big problems is this frame. It's obviously plastic, but it bends quite a bit. So, see? That's quite a bit of flexing, and on an arm that extends out to the side about 2.5 feet, that translates into quite a lot of vertical movement. So that's getting redone. Now, with the transmission system, I told you I'm getting a whole new transmission controller. So that's going to replace this whole unit. It's going to only be 4-speed, but it will have a clutch, and it will actually have a proper sequence that it goes through when engaging a new gear. It'll be really cool. I'll show you what I'm scheming a little bit later. It'll have a new transmission controller, new set of motor controllers. One of the other big problems with this machine is I've had to rely on these Lego switches to provide position feedback into the little motor controllers for the transmission. I'm actually going with potentiometers. So I'll be able to set exactly where a neutral is and exactly where each of the gears are. It'll be really cool. So then I'm also one more thing, going with an op-amp based speed control system. So the op-amp will replace the speed controller, the primary relay, the big red thing, or the big white thing, and then pretty much all of the governor assembly. So again, that'll be really cool. Hopefully it'll make this machine function a lot more like a proper remote control vehicle. So stay tuned. This will be very interesting.